Well, I'll tell you this. I have no idea about their business, but if someone owed me $200 million, then I would be in court, not on X. And I guarantee you, if she ever took that to court, that would be a huge story.
The headlines are screaming, but the courtrooms are silent. It's February 2026, and the music industry isn't just shaking, it's undergoing a total meltdown. Imagine being one of the biggest stars on the planet, claiming a billionaire icon owes you $200 million. But instead of filing a lawsuit, you're waging a scorched earth war on X. Federal attention is suddenly circling Jay-Z after Nicki Minaj unleashed a digital nuclear strike that has fans and the feds connecting dots that lead to some very dark places. We're talking about betrayal, secret contracts, and allegations so explosive they make the usual industry beef look like a playground spat.
You've also said that Jay-Z, Foxy Brown, and Lil Wayne were some of your biggest influences when you were coming up. What did each of them have that you wanted to emulate?
Jay-Z, business savvy. Foxy Brown, immaculate delivery. Lil Wayne, trendsetter.
Was Nicki Minaj really the victim of a massive financial heist involving the sale of Tidal? Or is this a masterclass in psychological warfare and marketing? From claims of child sacrifice to the sudden cancellation of her most anticipated album, the Queen of Rap is burning down the house, and she's naming names. Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on the $200 million debt, the Super Bowl sabotage, and the legal shadows closing in on Roc Nation. This isn't just a feud, it's a reckoning, and the jig might finally be up. To understand why Nicki Minaj is currently burning bridges with the most powerful man in hip-hop, you have to go back to 2015. This wasn't always a war. It started as a partnership built on mutual respect. Back then, Nicki looked at Jay-Z as the blueprint. She praised his business savvy in interviews, admiring how he turned street poetry into a real estate and tech empire. So when Jay-Z called upon the industry's elite to join him in launching Tidal, his artist-owned streaming service, Nicki didn't just show up, she became the face of the movement. She was one of 16 superstar stakeholders, including Rihanna, Kanye West, and Beyoncé, each reportedly gifted a 3% equity stake in the company. But according to Nicki, she didn't just sit on her shares. She treated Tidal like her own child. She pushed the platform to her barbs with a ferocity no other artist matched, save for maybe Beyoncé herself. She put her brand, her credibility, and her exclusive content behind Jay-Z's vision. She believed they were building a Black-owned future for the industry. But the dream started to sour in 2021. That's when Jay-Z sold a majority stake in Tidal to Jack Dorsey's Square, now Block Incorporated, for roughly $302 million. On paper, a 3% stake of $300 million should have netted Nicki around $9 million.
Remember when Jay-Z launched Tidal?
I remember.
And he brought in like 16 musical
15
partners.
people gave him 3% each.
Gave what?
3% each, 45%.
Okay, 3% each.
3%, they got 45% that he brought in. Later on, somebody else came in with like 200 million or so, and he gave them a third. It kind of diluted everybody, which we understand that. That's how your contract's written.
So she's claiming that Jay-Z, when he sold the company to Jack Dorsey, which I looked it up, it was sold for around $300 million, that she was paid $1 million, but she's really owed $200 million.
But she only had about maybe 2.5%, 3% tops.
There's 16 partners. She's not an equal partner. Jay-Z is obviously the biggest shareholder.
What's the numbers on 300 and 2.5%? I mean, shit.
300 times
10% would have been 3 million.
2.5.
Half of that 1.5.
It's about 7.5 million.
But 2.5?
2.5%. If it sold for that much, but like you said, it was probably diluted.
It was diluted.
And in fact, Tidal was a losing company. Tidal was never successful.
Stayed in the negative.
It stayed in the negative, so probably decreased in overall value. They had to get other, they had to get more money, which ultimately diluted everyone's share and so forth. It's not like you're talking about Spotify. You're not talking about Apple. You're talking about a losing company that was ping-pong to various other people. I think Sprint bought it at one point. Then I think Jack Dorsey just bought it as a favor to be cool with Jay-Z because he didn't do anything with it. Tidal's not a major platform anymore.
He didn't do anything with it.
And she's claiming that she's owed $200 million, which is it's just insane.
However, the reality behind the scenes was far murkier. By July 2025, Nicki went nuclear on X, formerly Twitter, claiming she hadn't seen a red penny of that sale. She didn't just ask for her $9 million, she demanded $200 million. How do you get from $9 million to $200 million? Nicki calls it karmic debt. She alleges that she was offered an insulting $1 million payout to be silenced and walk away from her equity. She claims the interest on that debt, combined with the years of unpaid promotion and the sabotage she faced afterward, has pushed the bill into the hundreds of millions. She's even promised to use that money to pay off her fans' student loans through her hashtag Student of the Game charity, turning a private business dispute into a public crusade. The industry pushback was immediate. Business mogul Steve Stout went on the Pivot podcast to claim Nicki never actually signed the paperwork, essentially leaving her millions on the table through negligence. Whack 100 and DJ Vlad sat down to do the math, arguing that subsequent investment rounds, like the $200 million Sprint deal in 2017, diluted the original 3% shares into almost nothing. They painted a picture of a losing company that was never actually profitable, suggesting Nicki's $200 million claim was pure fantasy. But for Nicki, the financial theft was just the beginning. She began connecting the dots to what she calls a systematic attempt to erase her legacy. In her 2025 to 2026 rants, she revealed that Jay-Z and Roc Nation CEO Desiree Perez allegedly blocked the release of her 2018 documentary. Why? Because it contained footage of her discussing the abuse she says she suffered while dating Meek Mill, a high-profile Roc Nation signee. She claims she stayed silent out of loyalty to Jay-Z, only to be betrayed when Roc Nation began signing her rivals, like Megan Thee Stallion, right in the middle of their public beefs. The tension reached a fever pitch in October 2025. In a move that shocked the world, Nicki announced she was scrapping her upcoming 6th studio album, which was set for a March 2026 release. She tweeted, "Okay, I'm not going to put out the album anymore. No more music. Hope you're happy now, Jay-Z." She began calling the label Broke Nation and Cock Nation, claiming they were begging her for a tour while simultaneously trying to siphon her energy. Was this a real retirement or a strategic crash out to force Jay-Z to the negotiating table? As 2026 began, the industry realized this wasn't just a bitter ex-partner venting online. This was a woman who felt she had been used to build a billionaire's empire, only to be discarded when she became too loud to control. The financial fallout was just the opening act. If the $200 million debt was the match, then the 2025 Super Bowl announcement was the gasoline that turned a business dispute into a full-blown cultural insurrection. In September 2024, the NFL and Jay-Z's Roc Nation announced that Kendrick Lamar would headline the Super Bowl 59 halftime show in New Orleans. On its own, Kendrick is a global powerhouse, but the location changed everything. New Orleans is the kingdom of Lil Wayne, the man who mentored Nicki Minaj, the man who arguably saved hip-hop in the mid-2000s, and the man everyone expected to take that stage in his own backyard. Nicki Minaj didn't just see this as a snub, she saw it as a calculated, cold-blooded assassination of a legend's legacy. She took to X with a fury that hadn't been seen since her Queen Radio days. She didn't hold back, calling Jay-Z evil, disgusting, and a hater. She accused him of deliberately bypassing Wayne to punish Nicki by proxy. To her, this wasn't about Kendrick. It was about Jay-Z using his position as the NFL's musical gatekeeper to settle old scores. She tweeted a list that went viral within minutes. "Dear #Jay-Z, you ruined hip-hop, you ruined football, you ruined basketball, you ruined touring, you ruined Instagram, you ruined Twitter. The jig is up." She wasn't just talking about music anymore. She was accusing one of the most powerful men in the world of being a monopolist, a man who pulls the strings of every major cultural institution to ensure that only those who bow down to him get a seat at the table. This Super Bowl moment shifted the narrative. It wasn't just about Nicki's bank account anymore. It was about loyalty. She rallied the Barbs and Wayne's Young Money faithful, painting Jay-Z as a corporate suit who had forgotten the streets that made him. The Breakfast Club and every major podcast in the US were suddenly forced to take a side. Charlemagne Tha God pointed out the obvious. If someone owed me $200 million, I'd be in a courtroom, not on X. But Nicki's response was silent but loud. Why go to a court that Jay-Z likely owns? Why play a game where he's the judge and the jury? As 2025 bled into 2026, the shadow war moved into the realm of career sabotage. Nicki began leaking allegations that Roc Nation was stopping bags behind the scenes. She claimed that major brand deals, festival slots, and even Billboard chart positions were being manipulated to keep her down. She alleged that Desiree Perez, the CEO of Roc Nation, with a controversial past as a government informant, was the architect of these blackballing tactics. Nicki's fans began digging, posting old RICO documents and legal papers from the 90s, trying to prove that the leadership at the top of the music industry was built on a foundation of betrayal. Then came the replacement project. Nicki pointed out a pattern. Every time she spoke out, Roc Nation seemed to elevate a new female rapper to take her place. First, it was the heavy promotion of Megan Thee Stallion during the height of the Hiss and Bigfoot drama. Then came the sudden astronomical rise of artists like Glorilla and attempts to court Doja Cat and Cardi B into the Roc Nation fold. To Nicki, this wasn't just competition. It was an industry-wide attempt to delete the Queen of Rap. The pressure reached a breaking point in late 2025 when Nicki claimed her H-1B visa staff and her security team were being harassed and intimidated. She started using the term the industry RICO, suggesting that Jay-Z wasn't just a rapper, but the head of a criminal enterprise that controlled the thoughts and pockets of everyone in music. She claimed she had receipts that would bring the whole house of cards down, recordings, contracts, and story times that would make the Diddy investigation look like a Sunday school picnic. But the most chilling part of this phase wasn't the money or the music, it was the personal cost. Nicki's mental health became a talking point for every major news outlet. Whack 100 famously compared her to Gucci Mane circa 2013, the crash-out phase where an artist attacks everyone before a major life change. Was she losing it, or was she the only one brave enough to speak the truth? As we entered the first weeks of 2026, the whispers turned into shouts. Rumors began to circulate that federal investigators were looking into financial irregularities within major streaming services and their initial acquisition deals. While no official charges were filed against Jay-Z, the federal attention Nicki kept tweeting about started to feel less like a threat and more like a looming reality. She wasn't just a rapper anymore. She was a whistleblower in a pink wig, daring the most powerful man in the industry to sue her for defamation, a lawsuit that never came. By the time the 2026 Grammys rolled around, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Nicki had already retired, unretired, and scrapped her album 3 times. She was a woman with nothing left to lose, and she was about to turn the biggest night in music into a digital crime scene. The Grammys, February 2026. The biggest night in music was supposed to be a celebration of artistry, but while the stars were walking the red carpet in Los Angeles, a digital apocalypse was being unleashed from a keyboard in a hidden location. Nicki Minaj wasn't just absent from the ceremony, she was transcending the music industry entirely, moving into a territory so dark and so dangerous that it made her previous business disputes look like child's play. It started with a joke, a jab from host Trevor Noah that would become the catalyst for the most explosive 24 hours in the history of social media. Trevor Noah stood on that stage and mocked Nicki's absence, joking about her being at the White House with Donald Trump and making crude comments about her body. In any other year, it might have been a forgettable monologue. In 2026, it was the spark that lit the powder keg. Nicki didn't just fire back, she went nuclear. She didn't target Trevor Noah for long, she went straight for the head of the snake. She accused the industry elite, specifically those tied to Jay-Z and Roc Nation, of something far more sinister than financial theft. She began posting about sacrificing children to maintain power. She told her millions of followers that if they continued to support the systems these people controlled, they were just as soulless as the ones at the top. This wasn't about a $200 million debt anymore. This was a moral crusade against what she described as a literal demonic cult running the entertainment world. The internet stood still. The Barbs began scouring every old interview, every music video, and every lyric, looking for the dots Nicki was telling them to connect. Then came the photographs. Nicki began digging into the 1990s, pulling up images that the industry had spent decades trying to bury. She posted a photo of a 26-year-old Jay-Z with a teenage Aaliyah, questioning the nature of their relationship and the age gap. She was weaponizing the past to destroy the present. DJ academics and other streamers were watching the feed in real time, doing the math on screen. Was she 15? Was she 17? Regardless of the exact number, the optics were devastating. Nicki was painting a picture of a man who had been predatory and manipulative from the very beginning, long before he became the billionaire godfather of the rap game. She was tearing down the untouchable image of Sean Carter piece by piece, and for the first time in 30 years, the armor was starting to crack. But the most terrifying part of this Grammy night meltdown was the mention of the federal RICO. Nicki claimed that the authorities were finally catching up to the Billboard sabotage and the financial manipulation she had been screaming about for years. She claimed the feds were looking into how numbers were being cooked to keep certain artists at the top while erasing others. And then, the rumor that stopped the world, whispers of a federal arrest. While the mainstream media remained eerily silent, the street media began reporting that federal agents were circling the Roc Nation headquarters. Headlines began to swirl about a new murder attempt, not necessarily a physical one, but a legal and social assassination attempt on Nicki herself that had allegedly backfired, bringing the heat of the Department of Justice down on the house that Jay-Z built. Why hasn't he sued her? That is the question that haunts every podcast and every newsroom in America. Jay-Z is a man who protects his brand with the ferocity of a lion. His legal team is legendary for shutting down bloggers and small-time creators for even the slightest hint of defamation. Yet here is Nicki Minaj, the most followed female rapper in history, calling him a child-sacrificing, money-stealing, career-ending monster. And he hasn't filed a single paper in court. As DJ academics pointed out, when they don't sue, it's usually because they don't want to go into discovery. They don't want their books opened. They don't want their private communications subpoenaed. His silence, which his fans call classy, is being viewed by the rest of the world as terrified. And where is Beyoncé in all of this? The Queen remains a ghost. Nicki has been careful to state that her war is with the husband, not the wife, but the collateral damage is unavoidable. The perfect image of the Carters, the billionaire power couple who can do no wrong, has been replaced by a narrative of isolation and legal dread. Every time Jay-Z tries to move, Nicki is there to block the path. She's effectively held his reputation hostage for over a year, and as of February 2026, the ransom is still unpaid. She's demanding her $200 million, she's demanding the release of her documentary, and she's demanding that the industry RICO be exposed to the light of day. As we stand here today, the 6th album is still in limbo. Nicki says she won't release it until her contract is renegotiated and the sabotage stops. She's essentially on a release strike, proving that she is the only artist with enough leverage to actually hurt the bottom line of the giants. She's not just a rapper anymore. She's a revolutionary in an industry that hates revolutions. Whether the feds actually walk Jay-Z out in handcuffs or if this ends in a massive secret settlement behind closed doors, one thing is certain. The music industry will never be the same. The veil has been lifted. The business-savvy Jay-Z once prized has been rebranded as corporate greed, and the immaculate delivery of Nicki Minaj has moved from the recording booth to the front line of a war for the soul of hip-hop. The jig isn't just up, it's over. This is a story that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, but the internet never forgets. We've laid out the facts, the allegations, and the timeline of a war that is still being fought as we speak. Is Nicki Minaj a whistleblower risking everything to expose a corrupt system? Or is this the most elaborate marketing campaign in the history of entertainment? Does Jay-Z really owe her $200 million? Or is the debt something that can't be measured in dollars? The feds are watching, the industry is shaking, and the barbs are waiting for the next story time to drop. We want to hear from you. Do you think the silence from Roc Nation is a sign of guilt or just a power move? And after everything we've covered, do you think the Queen will ever release that 6th album? Or is she done with the music business for good? Drop your theories in the comments below. Let's get the discussion started. If you want to stay updated on this unfolding legal battle and the latest on the industry RICO, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're tracking every tweet, every court filing, and every whisper to bring you the truth they don't want you to hear. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. The next chapter of this saga is just one post away.